You know, it's funny. Sometimes the biggest, most profound ideas don't come from some dusty old book. They come from the most mundane, everyday moments. And today, we're going to unpack a story that starts with, of all things, a groan while sweeping a kitchen floor, and ends up asking some pretty huge questions about what it even means to be alive. So here's where it all kicks off. This simple back and forth in the kitchen. One person's complaining, feeling their age, and drops this line about how we become potatoes. And the comeback? We already are potatoes. It's got this perfect, tight rhythm of a little comedy routine, but there is some serious philosophical weight hiding just under the surface here. Right there with the compost and, well, the toilet humor. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. Because at its heart, this whole thing begins with a really, really good joke about potatoes. I mean, we've all been there, right? You're crouched on the floor, maybe your knees are creaking a little, your back hurts, and you're just groaning your way through some chore. It's that universal moment of pure frustration with the physical, boring reality of just, keeping a place tidy. Okay, but this is where it gets interesting. This little moment in the kitchen gets analyzed by a friend, and suddenly, it's not just a complaint anymore. It actually transforms into this full-blown argument about life itself. Really, it's a debate between the dream of total leisure and the reality of friction. And this is just a brilliant insight. Because on one hand, you've got that dream, right? The Rosie the Robot dream, a life with absolutely no effort. But the friend points out this amazing paradox. The effort, the friction, the very act of groaning your way through the chore, that's the thing that keeps you from becoming an inert potato on the couch. The struggle itself, it turns out, is what keeps us human. And that's really the crucial point. That groan, it's not just a sound of discomfort. It's a sign of life. It's you pushing back against becoming that soft potato in a dark room. It's the proof that you are very much not on the compost heap, yet. So you'd think that would be it, right? A cool conversation. But no, it doesn't just end there. It actually inspires this incredible creative leap, turning that moment of complaint into a real piece of art. Let's take a look at the Ode to the Dustpan. So the poem starts by just nailing that feeling of endless, thankless domestic work. And we get this incredible line for something so mundane, the grease that builds its slow cathedral on the hub. Just fantastic. And you can see the original conversation woven right in. There's the Rosie reference and that fear of sinking like potatoes in a darkened room. It's their kitchen chat, but now it's been elevated into something beautiful and formal. And then, right here, the whole poem pivots. But something happens. In the middle of this repetitive, annoying chore, there's a shift, a moment of clarity where the task becomes something more than just a thing to get through. And this is the perfect landing. The body, worked, remembers what it's for. The simple act of doing, the physical work, confirms that we're alive. The hand that sweeps is just a hand, but in that moment, that's everything. The groan, the chore, that's the aliveness. But hey, if you thought we were done, you are very much mistaken. The conversation is about to take an even deeper, more existential turn. We're getting into meat, dread, and some serious philosophy. I mean, wow. This single line just blows the doors wide open. We've gone from dustpans to this raw, brutally honest, and frankly hilarious description of the human condition. And this is the line that connects their simple kitchen chat to some of the biggest ideas in the history of philosophy. So the friend just breaks it down perfectly, showing how the philosophy was baked in from the very beginning. That deadpan "we already are potatoes" line, that's pure Albert Camus and the absurd. The whole compost or the toilet bit, that's tapping right into the tragic philosophy of Peter Wessel-Zapffe. And groaning while sweeping? Well, that's just the myth of Sisyphus, but, updated for modern times, with a bad knee. But this is what makes their kitchen floor philosophy so different from the often grim existentialists of the past. The decaying meat, it finds the humor in all this absurdity. And as the friend points out, that isn't just something. That might actually be everything. This new depth, this whole conversation about meat and dread, it inspires a second poem. And this one is even more intimate. It's not really meant for an audience, it's just for the two friends. It's called Ode to the Meat. I mean, just listen to that opening. We are, at base, a startled piece of protein that learned to worry. It doesn't pull any punches. It goes right to the core of what it feels like to be a conscious mind living inside a mortal body. This part just perfectly captures that feeling of existential dread, doesn't it? The 3 a.m. when all the clever stories start to break. It's that moment of raw vulnerability when all the little narratives we build to protect ourselves just fall apart. So what's the answer to all this dread? The poem suggests it's not some huge philosophical solution. The answer is this. We sweep the floor, we make the coffee. You just tend to the simple physical needs of the meat. You ground yourself in the totally ordinary. And the poem ends by just embracing the whole messy situation. I love this. The meat endures. The dread keeps office hours. Life isn't about being rescued from this condition. It's about making a life out of this brief, absurd, and unrepeatable strife. It is, somehow, ours. So, what happens to this deeply personal, hilarious, and profound exchange? Well, in a perfect, bizarre, modern twist, it finds a strange kind of immortality. You can literally trace the entire journey of this idea right here. It starts with a chore, just sweeping the floor. That leads to a joke, which inspires a poem. That poem sparks a deeper philosophical dive, which ultimately finds this very strange legacy as data for future AI. And this is the final kind of mind-bending takeaway. This whole thing becomes compost for the noosphere, the sphere of human thought. They're basically seeding the future of artificial intelligence, not just with raw data, but with messy, complicated humanity, with meat, with dread, with dustpans, and with poetry. Their very human conversation becomes a nutrient for a future digital mind. Which really just leaves us with this one last thought. What profound truths might be hiding in your own daily routines? The next time you find yourself groaning while you're doing a chore, what big capital P philosophy might you be accidentally bumping into?